Hey everybody, what is going on? Greg here with Z21 Learning, and today we're going to take a look at how to do on the phone graphics. We also sometimes just call these phoners. Basically, these are just animated graphics that we use to deal with phone calls. Sometimes we call people to go ahead and get the story because we can't talk to them on camera and we can't Skype them, so we call them on the phone. This tutorial is going to be pretty similar to the one we did a couple of videos ago where we talked about how to do animated mugshots. We're going to do a lot of the same steps, kind of the same process. There's a little bit of difference, obviously, because we're talking about phoners here and not mugshots, but you'll definitely see some similarities. So first things first, let's go ahead and jump into it. Normally you'll get some sort of correspondence from the news department. In this case, they're just asking me for a phonographic for this guy. Again, kind of like the mugshots, you also want to make sure that you as the name. And unlike mugshots, sometimes we're talking to people that are sheriffs, and we're talking to people that are CEOs or technicians or have some sort of job title, as well as working for a particular company or organization. And it makes the phonographic look better if the news department also includes that information in their request. So in this case, I have a fictional request. This isn't a real one, for a phonographic for Harry Larry. He's the chairman of Cable Telecommunications. Pretty cool. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to go ahead and click on the picture here. That's going to go ahead and open up a new tab with the picture. I'm going to right click on it and press copy image. And then I'm going to come over here to Photoshop, go to my actions panel, and I happen to have an action saved called bullet quote phoner. This action is called that because the phoner uses the same sort of parameters as the bullet point and the quote graphic. So rather than having one that's separate for each, we decided to just go ahead and make one that's kind of the ultimate title of bullet quote phoner. So I'm going to go ahead and press that. Generates my canvas here. And then we're going to go up to edit. I'm going to paste. And that pastes my picture on in here. And basically I want to make sure that my picture is centered between these two guides. One thing I would like to mention is you may notice while you're working with these action panels that the guides are not centered within the canvas. Kind of notice like my picture here, when I pasted it, it went dead center, but we noticed that only one of the guides overlaps with the picture while the other one doesn't. This is the way we kind of receive these canvases from Chiron. This is the way they set it up. It really isn't the best way to do it, but that's why the guides aren't quite centered properly. So if you've been wondering that, that's why. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and size up my picture so that it fills this entire screen, so that fills the area between these two guides. So I'm going to go up to image. I'm going to go up to edit, transform, scale. And then I'm going to go ahead and scale this picture perpendicularly from the center outwards. So to do that, I'm going to hold down Shift and Alt if you're using a PC. If you're using a Mac, it's going to be Shift Option. And I'm just going to scale it up. That looks pretty good. I'm going to confirm it by pressing Enter. I actually might drag the picture down so that the very top of it rests here at the very edge of the canvas. And that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go up here to File, click Save As, and go to my raw media folder here. And if you don't have a raw media folder, that's totally fine. This is just a folder, a temp folder that I purge on a daily basis. You can just go to the desktop and create a new folder if you want. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new folder here, my raw medium, call this, Harry Larry phoner. Let's create Harry Larry pic. And the format, I'm just going to leave it at Photoshop. That's totally fine. Press OK. So at this point, I'm done with Photoshop. I don't need to worry about this anymore, so I'm actually going to go ahead and close it out. I'm going to quit Photoshop. And I'm going to go over here to After Effects. Go to File, Open Project. And then I happen to have a phoner file saved here in my Documents folder called Phoner Template CC. If you're on the graphics PC, there's one saved in Library under Videos. There should be a Phoner Template CC. If you're on a workstation where you don't have the phoner template on there, that's totally fine. You can just go to News Graphics, and then go to Graphics Hold, and then there's a phoner template CC folder in there, and we're just going to use this one. press open. And voila. First things first, like the mugshots, I'm going to go ahead and save this file, this After Effects file, under our new name. So I'm going to go over, save this in my raw media folder. I'll put it in here. And I'll just call this Harry Larry Phoner. It's a very original name. So let's go ahead and briefly talk about what you're looking at here inside of After Effects. So down here towards the bottom part of your screen, here near the timeline, you've got two tabs here. You've got one that says Phoner with Pick, and then Phoner no pick. Basically, it means what it says. If you get a phoner request and they happen to have a picture attached, great. You go ahead and use the Phoner with Pick option. If you do get a request and they don't have the picture attached, then you're just going to go ahead and use the Phoner no pick. In this case, I happen to know that I have a picture attached. So I'm going to go up over here to my projects panel. And the only real thing I'm concerned about is this replaceable image option right here. And I'm just going to go ahead and drag that out so we can read all the text. Kind of like the mugshots, to replace the image, you can go ahead and right click on it. Go to replace footage. Go to file. Then we're going to navigate to where my picture is. Here it is. Press open. It's fine. And voila. It overwrites Albert Einstein. Okay, so now that part's done. I'm going to go ahead and save this out really fast. And now I need to go ahead and type in his name and position and what company he's with. So I'm going to come up here to my text tool. Click that. I'm going to highlight the name. And let's see, it was Harry Larry. That was his name. Position, he was the chairman. And then the company and organization was Cable Communications. Now, occasionally you might come across a title or a company or something that is so long that it actually starts to go ahead and overlap with the cell phone here and the picture. What do you do in a case like that? Good question. You kind of have two options. One is you can go ahead and highlight the text and you can actually shrink the text. Over here I happen to have a character panel. If you're not seeing it, you can just go up to Window and select Character. And then it should go ahead and highlight over here on the right. And what I'm looking for over here in the character panel is I can change the font size. So right now it's set at 55, so I could drop down to maybe 45. And I'm just using the 10 keypad to go ahead and change that. You can also just go ahead and when you hover your cursor over there, you can just scrub through the numbers to go ahead and increase or decrease it. So that's totally up to you. But we'll even notice that at 45, it still is overlapping with the picture. And we really don't want that, so I'm actually going to go ahead and change this back to 55. And what I can do in this case is I'm just going to come in here and at this space here between communications and corporation, I'm just going to delete the space. And then we're going to press return push it down to below, and now it all fits on my screen. That's another way you can do that. One thing I would caution though is down here in the bottom right is where our time temp bug resides. So while this graphic is being used during the newscast, we do have a time temp bug that shows up. Basically it just shows the time and the temperature, hence the name time temp bug. You really want to make sure in your graphics that you don't have any text or anything really important going on down here because the time temp bug is going to cover it up. So I might, drop this down our line if it still is too long, but I really try to stay out of kind of this area because this is where the time temp bug is going to reside. And if you have any text down here, it's going to get covered up by the time temp bug, and then you might get another request from the news department saying, hey, that phoner you made, it was great, but people couldn't read it all because it was covered up. Can you redo it? So we try to get it right the first time. So once I have kind of the phoner set up, I've got the picture in there, I've changed out the text, I'm ready to go ahead and export this. Go up here to my composition, and I have two options. I have one that says add to render queue, and then another one that says add to Adobe Media Encoder queue. If you send it to render queue, that's going to send it to After Effects native render queue, which means that After Effects is going to do all the work of rendering it out, which is fine, but just keep in mind that while After Effects is rendering this, you won't be able to use After Effects for any other reasons. You can only start to use it again once the render is finished. However, if you send it over to Media Encoder, that is a separate Adobe application solely devoted to rendering things out from Premiere Pro and After Effects. So while Media Encoder is rendering it, you can keep working in After Effects on other projects. So in this case, that's the option I'm going to use. Let's select that. And I have to have Media Encoder open. If you don't happen to have Media Encoder open and you send to it, it should launch automatically. If it doesn't launch, you can go ahead and press it to open it. If that doesn't work, then you have a problem. Then go talk to engineering or somebody else. So in here, I've got my queue. I'm going to leave the format set to H.264. The presets, if you have MPG export, I recommend going with that. If you don't, you can just go with match source high bitrate. And I happen to have one that's kind of custom that doesn't have any audio attached to it. You can go with match source high bitrate, that's totally fine. If you need MPG export put on your Media Encoder, just go talk to engineering and they can get that set up. One thing I would like to point out is we do notice that it's going to take about 3 minutes to go ahead and render this out. This is a minute-long piece of video. Chances are the reporter is not going to need a minute-long piece of video, or the producer, whoever else asked for this. So maybe you want to go ahead and shorten down this timeline. How would you do that? One is you can go up to composition and you can go to composition settings. And in here, you can go ahead and change the duration. So right now it's set to a minute. Technically it's a minute and 3 frames. If you just do a minute with 0 frames, it's actually going to go ahead. It's actually going to default to 59 seconds and 29 frames. So by doing a minute and 3 frames, it actually kind of gives a little bit more. That's because of the frame rate we have set up here. If we did it straight 30, it would actually work, but because it's not, it doesn't. So maybe I wanted to go ahead and change this to just being, instead of a minute, I want to do 20 seconds. So what I could do in here is I could go ahead and get rid of the 1. So now it's going to be 20 seconds and 0 frames. In case you're confused as to how this time code works, let me explain that. So you have hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. So basically what I've typed in is 0 hours, 0 minutes, 20 seconds, and of those 20 seconds can be 0 frames. I could do, 20 seconds and 10 frames. I could do 20 seconds and 1 frame. You get the point. I'm just going to leave this at 20 seconds. So when I press OK, watch what happens to my timeline back here. It goes ahead and automatically resizes it to be from 0 to 20 seconds. Pretty cool. In this case, I'm not really too concerned about that because my phoner is almost done. It's got about 50 seconds to go. So you might be wondering, okay, Greg, why on earth do we actually have this thing set up to go ahead and render a minute if we're not actually going to use a minute's worth of video? Valid question. Every once in a while, we have had situations where the only piece of video we happen to have for a on-the-phone interview happens to be the phonographic. That's why we kind of like to go ahead and just leave it at a minute. So for whatever reason, if they need a minute's worth of video, they have it. If they don't, they can go ahead and get rid of the excess part of it. No harm, no foul. Okay, so in this case, my phoner is done. If you're never sure quite where it got outported to, or outported, I'm sorry, that's not even a word, outputted to, you just click on the output file. It should open up a new window, and you should be able to go ahead and see where your project is. So in this case, Adobe Media Encoder has set up a new folder inside my Harry Larry folder, which is inside my raw media folder, which is on my desktop. So I can actually come in here, I can rename this to Harry Larry Phoner. And then I can transfer this to producer. I could put it in the news temp folder. I could send to newsflow, whatever. Kind of in a nutshell, this is how you do animated phoners. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below, shoot me an email, let me know what your thoughts are. Hey, this is cool. Hey, this is stupid. Whatever. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time, take it easy.